Machine learning. It is one of the biggest buzzwords in tech today, and you probably interact with it dozens of times a day without even realizing it. But what is it really? In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down how computers actually learn.
Right? You see it in headlines, you hear about it on the news, your phone is definitely using it as we speak. It can sound incredibly complicated and honestly, maybe a little intimidating.
So, what are we actually talking about when we say a machine is learning? I mean, how does a chunk of silicon and circuits learn anything at all? Let's get right into the fundamental idea.
Okay, so the most important part of this whole thing is right there on the screen. Machine learning lets computers learn from data without being explicitly programmed. That last phrase, that is the entire game changer. It's a completely different way of thinking about how we tell computers what to do.
Now, I know definitions can be a little abstract. So to make this idea crystal clear, let's use a simple, classic example that pretty much everyone on the internet can appreciate.
Let's talk about cats and dogs. We're going to imagine we want to teach a computer to tell the difference between the two. This is the go-to example for a reason. It gets right to the heart of what it means to learn by example. The goal is super simple. You give the computer a photo, and it tells you if it's looking at a cat or a dog. Seems easy enough for us, but for a computer, how would you even begin to program that? And this is where everything changes. The old, traditional way would be to write millions of lines of code with super rigid rules, like if the ears are pointy, then it's a cat. But what about a cat with folded ears or a dog with pointy ones? See? That system falls apart almost immediately. The machine learning way is totally different. It says, forget writing rules. Instead, just show the computer a ton of examples.
This is that learning from data idea in action. You basically feed the machine a mountain of information, a fire hose of pictures. And every single one is labeled by a person. This is a cat. This one's a dog. Cat, dog, over and over and over again.
And here's the amazing part. The computer just chews through all those images and starts to find patterns all by itself. Subtle patterns that you or I might not even consciously notice. It learns the statistical differences in snout shapes, the distance between the eyes, the texture of fur. It builds its own complex understanding that's way more sophisticated than anything we could have programmed by hand.
So that whole cat and dog thing is the perfect illustration of the core concept. Now, let's just zoom out for a second and look at the simple 3-step recipe that applies to pretty much any machine learning task out there. It really just boils down to these 3 things. First, you have the input data. That's our thousands of cat and dog pictures. Second, you train a model. That's the part where the computer finds all those hidden patterns. And finally, number 3, you make predictions. That's when you give it a brand new photo it's never seen before, and it tells you, yep, that's a dog. Now, this might still sound a little bit like science fiction, but I promise you, this exact 3-step process is running behind the scenes in so many of the apps and services you use every single day.
So let's make this even more real. You are constantly surrounded by machine learning, probably way more than you think.
Seriously, think about it. When Netflix recommends a show and you actually end up loving it, that's ML predicting what you like based on what you've watched. When a sketchy email goes straight to your spam folder, that's ML recognizing the patterns of junk mail. When your phone automatically finds all the pictures of your best friend, or when you ask a voice assistant for the weather, it is all powered by machine learning.
Okay, so this is clearly about more than just movie recommendations and clean inboxes. This fundamental ability for computers to learn from data is what is driving these massive, innovative leaps in almost every industry on the planet.
I mean, we're talking about models that can look at medical scans and spot signs of a disease even earlier than a highly trained doctor. We're talking about systems that can sift through enormous amounts of atmospheric data to give us better, more accurate weather forecasts. And of course, the huge challenge of self-driving cars. That's basically just one giant continuous machine learning problem.
So if you take just one thing away from all of this, let it be this idea. At its core, machine learning is really about us trying to get computers to learn from experience and recognize patterns in a way that feels, well, very human. It's an incredibly powerful technology that's turning raw information into actual insight. And that leaves us with one final, very big question to think about. As computers get better and better at learning like us, what impossible problems are we going to solve next?